You're not gonna like it.
That's an analogy too.
This is not an Untuck It. Untuck It, which is a brand of shirt. I do love those Untuck It commercials. They present it like
I
some
don't know what those
revolutionary technology. It's a shirt that can be worn untucked. Wow! Like a magic shirt? That's right. Can't other shirts do that? No, this is a special shirt. It goes with our unzipped pants. And our unbuckled belt. And combined with your uncombed hair, you can look unemployed. And be unwelcome in restaurants. That's unbelievable!
I haven't seen this one
is
before.
actually a 2XL. That's right, I did it. Mission accomplished.
Since ranked choice voting became law, it may seem
So, that's one example. But who do you think of when you think of comedians? Ellen? How many folks watch her? Or is she passé now? She used to have a show.
Should not have a show anymore.
Let's go stand up. 2024?
All right, well, let me catch up on what's been going on with me since you saw me last. I decided to take up gardening. I got chickens. Let me see what else I can tell you about that's been going on. Oh, yeah, I got kicked out of show business. Yeah. Yeah, the Be Kind Girl wasn't kind. That was the headline. Here's the problem. I'm a comedian who got a talk show, and I ended the show every day by saying, be kind to one another. Had I ended my show by saying, go fuck yourselves, people would have been pleasantly
Sorry
surprised
about that.
to find out I'm kind. Most women aren't raised with confidence. We're too self-conscious, which is why you rarely see a woman playing air guitar. I didn't go into this business for money. It was about healing my childhood wounds. I thought, if I can make people happy, then they'll like me. And if they like me, I'll feel good about myself. And all I can say about that is thank God for the money.
So I have her name in my book, but I don't indicate what kind of fallacy she's making there. But it seems to me that her humor tends to play on the difficulties women have in show business. So is that a fallacious argument? Or is she picking on the fact of the difficulty?
I think she's picking on the presumptions we have of those things and then telling you how they actually are, and that's the fallacy. It's the truth versus fiction in there, and I don't know which fallacy that would fall under, but that's what she's addressing.
Well, let's look at fallacies for a minute and see what kind of fallacies we've got. Logical. Is this the one we used last time? I don't think so. We used Wikipedia, right? So let's look. Here's one. Slippery slope.
Hasty generalization.
And actually, that's I can see the kinds of jokes she's telling is, in a sense, a slippery slope. If you give, the difference between males and females, males tend to have more confidence than females. I don't think that's true at all. I mean, it's a different kind of confidence, maybe. But then she goes on to say, you never see a woman playing air guitar. And the audience laughs. Because, have you ever played air guitar?
I think, again, right below slippery slope, it's right there with hasty generalization.
I think you're right. This is a conclusion based on insufficient or biased evidence. In other words, you are rushing to a conclusion before you have all the relevant facts. Give us an example. Even though it's only the first day, I can tell this is going to be a boring course. Well, I did my best on the first day so that you didn't get that impression, by the way.
But you could insert the air guitar comment you just made, like, right there.
Yeah. But she's clearly not describing a factual situation.
Right.
And it tickles her funny bone. Post hoc, ergo propter hoc. I mentioned this one because when I jokingly mentioned it's fun when you get into the Latin, because a lot of the fallacies have been given Latin names. And that's, of course, because they were identified in the Middle Ages when that was the language people used. So there's a lot of fallacies that the monks used to memorize. And post hoc means after this, therefore, ergo, right? Before this. So in other words, the fallacy here is if it happens after something else happened, the tendency is for us to think that the first thing caused the second thing, when actually an awful lot of things, are totally unrelated.
Right.
The things I remember, Bill Cosby, who's another one in my book, and I'm not really sure if I'm allowed to use him anymore because of, the various court cases that and he was found guilty and was a horrible person. Meanwhile, we're enjoying him on TV and on stage, and here he is having a life that is absolutely horrible. What do you do in that kind of circumstance? But I remember when he was, doing one of his stand-up, stage show kind of things, I think it was him. There's other ones where someone makes a joke, that well, give me a sign, and then there's thunder and lightning, and holy shoot, and so the connection is that saying give me a sign literally caused God to throw the thunderbolt. Here's a sign, that you're wrong. And we laugh at that. And what's so funny about it is we realize, hey, we now know today that lightning doesn't come from God being upset with you for doing something, right? I don't know, But here we have it. I drank bottled water and now I'm sick, so the water must have made me sick. It could have been, right? I mean, I had a Big Mac. Ooh, and my wife was like, don't eat the onions. What? Oh yeah, there was this thing about onions. Alaska wasn't one of the states, by the way, but she opened the hamburger and looked, and she said, oh, there's no sliced onions in there, they're only diced onions, so that's okay. Because it was the sliced onions that were of concern with E. coli, and not the diced ones. So
I think that's one of the most prevalent fallacies that you see constantly.
I think it's almost always one of the top of the lists that you see. By the way, I ate that hamburger, and now I feel fine. Although E. coli, I understand, can take a day or two. Genetic fallacy. This conclusion is based on an argument that the origins of a person, idea, institute, or theory determine its character, nature, or worth. For example, the Volkswagen Beetle is an evil car because it was originally designed by Hitler's. Actually, I thought Hitler himself had something to do with it. But,
The Bill Cosby thing we were saying is right there. Bill Cosby's a horrible person, but the joke that he told that was funny 20 years ago is still funny. know what I mean?
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not saying I'm excusing Bill Cosby by any stretch of the imagination, I'm just saying as an example.
Plus, there's a lot of people that actually don't know that the jokes Bill Cosby told are the jokes that Bill Cosby told.
Mhm.
So I can tell them in class and get away with them and people laugh and think they're funny as long as I don't mention that it was a Bill Cosby sketch.
That's exactly where I'm going. Like, it doesn't change the value of the actual thing.
Begging the claim is this next one. You also hear begging the question, and I'm not sure that they're using that the same way. It might be begging the claim, but begging the question. That's where literally you're giving an argument where you're saying
Oh, I see.
the conclusion is the grounds for thinking the conclusion. So that's also very similar to, I think someone said that circular reasoning was their favorite, right? There it is, the circular argument. This restates the argument rather than actually proving it. George Bush is a good communicator because he speaks effectively.
Circular argument is also another one that you see constantly.
Of course, keep in mind that one of the reasons we're studying these is not just to figure out why we laugh and how funny jokes are funny, and maybe even identify which comics or comedians we prefer, and what kind of jokes they tell. If you could figure out what kind of fallacy it's like they have a particular trigger that, almost every joke they come up with is the same kind of fallacy over and over again. So you can spend a whole hour laughing and having a good time without realizing you're just laughing at essentially the same joke over and over again. But it's also supposed to help us reason better, so that we don't go out there and argue these ways, because notice these are failures, right? Of course, keep in mind that politically they might still work because they're psychologically persuasive. But, if you're trying to be a scientist, you wouldn't want to use circular reasoning. These paramecium are clearly searching for the sweetest ingredients. How do you know? Well, they're searching for this, the sweetest ingredients. Either or. So this one, by the way, that's kind of interesting because in the Middle Ages there was an argument format, sic et non, which means yes or no, which really means either yes or no. And it was used in lots of texts, etc. And clearly, often in debate. It was kind of one of the sports of the Middle Ages, was the monks having debates with one another to hone their logical skills and get promotions even, right? But so we can either stop using cars or destroy the earth. When we're looking at of course the situation with global warming, it's very obvious to me, and it has been for years. I think it was like 15, 20 years ago, somewhere in that, we had a speaker from Madrid, a biologist, who came and was promoting a particular book, Signs of Life, that he had written. And he gave us a lecture where he convinced us that in studying what's happening in the Amazon forest, the way that the different areas are being destroyed by the farmers and others in order to increase agriculture or grazing. So they're destroying large sections of the forest. And of course that forest has been identified as one of the main reasons we have oxygen, although the ocean is the biggest source of it. But we're polluting the ocean as well. And there's more and more places in the ocean where there's no oxygen, and so the fish just swim into it and die because they don't have any oxygen there. But Ricard Soleil, by the way, was the name of the author, the scientist. I'll show you his